So for the last thing that I'd like to do with our new information is I'd like to talk about the article here, Neural Pathways for Visual Speech Perception. So far, we've talked about speech perception. My question is always, was that cognitive? Was that cognitive neuroscience? Is this cognitive neuroscience? The things I've been talking about so far, would you consider those to be cognitive or cognitive neuroscience topics? Bella, any thought? Not really? It's okay. Kate, any thoughts?
I would say probably more cognitive, because we haven't really talked about like brain structure yet.
Bingo. If it doesn't talk about stuff with the brain, then it's cognitive. This has all been cognitive research going on. What would you say about this article just from looking at the abstract? Desha, what would you say about this article just looking at the abstract? It is talking about the brain. So this article, in fact, is going to be in cognitive neuroscience. So I just want you to understand the difference. And what I wanted to do was kind of go through this article, not in terrible detail, but just kind of highlight some things. So if you have it up on your computer, what do they start talking about on the bottom of the first page, second column? What effect do they start talking about there? The McGurk effect. And what are they doing with the McGurk effect there? They're doing neuroimaging. So what's going on in the brain with the McGurk effect? Is that cognitive neuroscience? Yuppers. They even talk about the, on the first column there, the Lieberman and Mattingly, the motor theory of speech. If you keep going with things, on, page 2, the second column, visual speech perception. Were you just doing that? You're watching me talk and you're perceiving it. And so what do they have on the big picture on page 3? Through neuroanatomical work and looking at evoked potentials and other things, what's that picture on page 3 all about? You're doing all this cognitive processing. Hannah, picture is showing what?
Where the processing is going on in the left hemisphere.
Yeah, where the processing is going on in the brain. And so we know that when it's visual information goes to the occipital lobe, the very back. Acoustic information, do you guys know where acoustic information goes? The temporal lobe. So they're kind of trying to get at all these things going on. The frontal lobe is involved with kind of maybe the integration of this. So trying to document where things are going on, features, phonemes. I don't even know what a viseme is. But features are visual information. Phonemes are sound. They just kind of go through this and try to track the brain structures. If we turn to page 5 here, the bottom of the first column, prosody. Does prosody play a role in speech perception? What was prosody? Talabal, do you remember what prosody was? Really? Come on! You don't remember that? That was actually a bit of a joke there. Really? You don't remember what exactly that was? I can't believe you! What is prosody? Am I doing any prosody right now? What is prosody? It's the musicality of the voice. It's the way the sounds are I was communicating to you what there, some sarcasm. Does prosody matter when you're talking to people? Yeah, if you can often talk to my wife of 26 years. She could say the worst, nastiest thing to me in the world, but if she says it in a nice tone, it sounds a little bit better. If I get negative words and negative prosody, that can have an impact. So they're basically trying to look at things here to see how prosody figures into the equation. And they're looking at lip reading here as well. So they're kind of summarizing things here. We can continue on. They kind of have, you don't have to know the interim summaries of all this, but it's the idea that we're using all of this to process speech. You turn to page 9. They talk about areas of the brain, the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe. Would it make sense that audiovisual speech perception would be occipital temporally based? It would be. So that's kind of the idea behind that. And let's see, did they give us a proposed model at the end? Figure 1. Where is figure 1? Anybody see figure 1? I see him talk about it at the end. Oh, there it is. So this is what cognitive neuroscience people do. They try to track the brain pathways for these things occurring. This is a summary article kind of going over it. If you turn to page 12, visual speech perception can happen. Lip reading happens. Here are the brain structures. We can use functional MRIs, neuroimaging techniques. There seem to be these key brain structures going on. Lip reading can happen. Maybe we can do this more in the future. So this is a very cognitive neuroscience kind of summary article. Does that make sense for folks? Okay, so with that being stated, that's kind of the cognitive neuroscience end of the equation. On the test, you could get something asking you about this or that, and if it's cognitive or if it's cognitive neuroscience, what makes it and what are some of the conclusions, and that is the way of it.